Thank you. I don't know how I follow that, Maureen. Seriously. like everything you just said was what I was going to talk about. I'm like, well, I don't know how I follow that. But what I will do is I'm currently working as the head of community for SBE Australia. We are a women's only business accelerator. And what I wanted to do is take a selfie.
That's no big deal.
Okay, guys. So let's get on Twitter and we'll try to trend. All right. I don't know how good that we're going to do, but that's okay. We're going to try. It's an MVP. Ready? Yay! Oh, wait, that was really bad. Okay, that wasn't so bad. Okay, great. And I'm just going to grab a water bottle. So how many of you ladies in here think you know what you want to do with your career? Awesome. Girl in the tank top that I'm looking at, the yellow tank top. What do you want to do? Oh, cool. Fantastic. And do you have like a certain, did something happen where you said, yes, this is what I want to do?
I'm just really clumsy, so at the hospital.
That's awesome. Okay, great. So the reason I asked this is because my journey is eerily similar to Maureen's. Not necessarily very similar, but I don't know if any of you can tell, but I'm actually not from Australia originally. Even though I've lived outside the US for quite some time, but I'm from New Jersey and the accent just hangs around. So I'm originally from New Jersey. When I was young, and I still am, but when I was young, I wanted to be a singer. And I still am a singer. I might sing at the very end if you're lucky. But I kind of always like had that creative side to me. I wanted to be a singer, and I did writing. But then when I was around 10 to 11, and I hit puberty, I loved food. Like food has always been my biggest passion, and I started eating like a little bit too much food. So I went to Weight Watchers. Like my mom brought me to Weight Watchers when I was 11 or 12, and I absolutely loved it. I loved it. I thought it was so interesting. I loved learning about food and how it affected the body, and I was really interested in that. And I remember, the reason I asked you this question is because I remember I was sitting in my 8th grade, I think that's like year 8 for you guys? So I was sitting in my 8th grade class. I'm 14 years old. I'm sitting next to my friend. I remember what I was wearing. I was wearing a purple turtleneck. I was eating a bagel with peanut butter on it. I remember everything. And I remember reading a magazine that a friend had brought in. It was Shape magazine. And there was an article in that magazine, and it said, so-and-so nutritionist, dietitian says that after you exercise, you should eat almonds because they're a really good source of protein, zinc, and calcium. And a light bulb went off in my head, and I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. And so I did. So instead of kind of going the creative route, I decided to pursue a career in STEM. And I found it really challenging. Science is tough. And I was a creative, sort of, artsy, drama, singer type of person, but I really loved food, and I really loved the way that it interacted with the body. So I decided to make that my career. And I got an undergraduate degree in nutrition. Then I went to London, and I got a master's degree in public health nutrition, promptly spent 5 years working in a bar. After I did that, because it was so much fun in London, I just sort of traveled around and did a little bit of nutrition work on the side, and then I became a dietitian when I went back to the US when I was 27, because I'm 36 now. And I loved it. I always loved doing nutrition. But there was always something else that I felt like I wanted to do. And I started working for a big company that I was doing nutrition sales. And sales ended up being something that I was actually good at. I had never done sales before. And I started thinking, what could I sell? And around the same time, I decided that I was going to move to Sydney. My partner is from New Zealand, and we decided that we were going to move here for fun, actually. And so we moved here, and I kind of started thinking about what I could sell. And I started going to events like this. And there would obviously be food at the events, and the food was always crap. It was always just like crummy sandwiches or Domino's or, stuff that as a dietitian, I love eating. I'm like, food is my favorite thing, but if I'm gonna eat a pie, I want it to be like amazing, I'm like, calories are my currency. I only have a certain amount that I have to spend all day, so if I'm gonna spend them, it's gonna be something worthwhile. And I would go to events like this because I wanted to meet people, and the food wasn't good enough. And I didn't understand because I would go on weekends to these amazing markets and to cafes and restaurants, and the food was so delicious, and the food seemed so vibrant, and I didn't understand why I would go and eat Domino's. So I went online to see if there was a website where I could find better food for events, and I didn't see anything. And that's another light bulb. And I went, I'm going to do this. If this doesn't exist, I'm going to bring this to Australia. I had never been in business. I'd never been a CEO of anything. I was the little dietitian that had been, doing nutrition work, which I loved, by the way, and I still like. I don't practice, but I enjoy it. And I had no idea about market size. I had no idea about profit and loss. I had no idea how to run a business, but I said, I'm going to do this. And so I just jumped in. I started taking business courses and going to business events, and I started a business called You Choose. So it was YOUCHEWS. And I actually, starting a business is easy. It's not, and I didn't realize how hard it was going to be because people always say, you need to work hard. That was fine. I've been working hard. I'm used to working hard. But it's the kind of work that you do. And I remember I started reading Entrepreneur magazine, and all of the articles weren't about running a business. They were actually about self-care and self-confidence and persistence. And I'm going, I kind of like myself. I don't need this. I don't understand why I'm reading all about this. Well, a year in, I understood why. And it's because starting a business is easy, but growing it and scaling it and maintaining your sanity at the same time is really challenging. And the reason is because everything is on you. I had this vision that I wanted to bring this amazing food into meetings and events. But again, didn't have any background. So learning all of that on the job was incredibly painful. But I learned a few things. The first is that I was much more resilient and persistent than I ever thought I would be. Things had always kind of worked out for me. I wanted to be a dietitian. I did that. I'd kind of always done all the things I wanted to do, but I don't know if I necessarily did anything that was very difficult. And I would have thought that as soon as it got a little bit hard, I would have just moved on to something else, but I didn't. I stuck it out and I hung in there, and I was really impressed with myself that I could do that. But because I felt that I was so inexperienced, I allowed my self-confidence to be eroded. And I'm a pretty gutsy gal, I considered myself to be so. But this was a whole other level of work and challenge that I didn't anticipate. And I actually started feeling bad about myself and started listening to not only my own voices in my head, but to other people. And other people they really do want to help you, for the most part. But I was listening to mentors, and none of them really understood my business because nothing had really been done like this in Australia before. So people would tell me, you can't do it, this isn't going to scale, it's not going to work. And I believed them. And the one thing that I learned now, 4.5 years later, having, the business now be acquired, and now that I'm, kind of a free agent, and it feels great, by the way, I have to say, is that I was right about everything the whole time. I was right about every single thing that happened. And if I had trusted myself and known that, I wouldn't have listened to anybody else. I was right about the market being ready. I was right about the opportunity. I was right that somebody else was going to buy me, that a competitor was going to see our value. I was right about every single thing, but I didn't believe in myself enough because I thought that it wasn't that I thought I wasn't good enough or that I was an imposter, but it was actually a very challenging logistical operational business. So I have a fresh product that needs to get from point A to point. Did I even tell you what I do? Oh my gosh, okay. Sorry. I've only got 2 minutes left. So we were called, we ended up being called CAASTRO because I got sued for trademark infringement. Also, not fun. But I ended up getting through it, yay. So we started out as You Choose, and then I got a cease and desist letter. And we ended up being called CAASTRO, so we were the maitre d' of online catering. And I called it at your service as your office catering concierge. Essentially, we had a technology platform which we built where caterers could have their menus up online and customers could buy that food. And then we had that extra layer of customer service because we wanted the experience to be a little bit classy. And our customers were executive assistants or office managers that ordered food for meetings and events in businesses. The reason why we focused on businesses is because it was recurring revenue. Anyway. So yeah, so that's kind of a little snapshot of my journey. And I guess if there's one thing that I wanted to that you could take away is that if you think that you're right about everything, you are. And you don't need anybody telling you anything about what they think or projecting what their beliefs are on you. Like, if you think that you're doing the right thing, I wish I had listened to myself, because I was literally right about everything that happened. And those people that are trying to help you, they really are trying to help. But if your gut is telling you that they're wrong and you're right, then you are. That's it.
Since you've sold your business, what do you do now?
Yeah, great question. So I actually intended on taking 6 months off, was my intention, because it was such a crazy and traumatic 4.5 years of literally working every day that my dream was to not do anything for 6 months. But the week after, I ended up sitting next to a lovely lady at a networking event, and she asked me, she said, "What do you do?" I said, "Nothing." She goes, "You don't do anything?" I said, "No, I don't. I don't do anything." And she was kind of like, okay. And then we all went around the room, because it was a small room, and I introduced myself and what I did, and she said, "Are you looking for a job?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I am not looking for anything." And she goes, "Well, why don't you just come in and have breakfast with me?" And her name was Julie Dempsey, and she's the general manager of an organization called SBE Australia. They run the Springboard Accelerator, which is for high-growth potential female-led businesses that either want to raise capital or expand to international markets or take on a strategic partner. And so my role there is essentially to engage the community and our alumni. So after they graduate, there's not a lot of support currently for what happens after. So my job is to tweet so that people know the good work that we're doing, and also try to engage our alumni to and see what they need in terms of care going forward. Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask was what motivated you and inspired you to create your own business, and how did you get past all of the people saying that you couldn't do it?
So what inspired me was, Australia, actually. And I remember, because my boyfriend and I came over here, this is like in 2011, what are we now? So like almost 7 years ago. And one thing that struck me were the amount of skip bin companies that were here. I would walk by skip bins, and it was like, skip bins are us, like Aussie skip bins, Mr. Skip Bin. And I was like, if there are so many skip bin companies in this country, there must be some pretty good opportunity for entrepreneurs. So that was kind of that actually kind of made me start to think. And then when I started to read things, they said, the financial crisis happened in 2008 in the US, and that affected my family really badly. And we'd always been fairly well off before, and then all of a sudden we weren't. At least my parents weren't. And so I started thinking about how I could make money, and what I realized was that if I worked in a job, that I would only be able to earn what that job would pay me, versus if I had my own thing, then the earning possibility was really limitless if I picked the right thing. And then when it came to people that would tell me, that they thought that I were doing the wrong thing, I really want to stress, these people aren't bad people. They just don't know your business, and they don't know what's going on in your head. And a lot of the time, I didn't actually get past it. I let it hold me back a lot. I was really fearful in a lot of ways. And I listened to this podcast the other week, and they talked about having one word and picking one word for the year. And this is a really good time of year to do that, because it's December. So if you're starting the new year, and my one word is courage. It's I'm not going to let anything hold me back anymore. I'm going to be super courageous. And let me tell you, I still did okay. We had a result, and I'm really, really proud of that. But I keep thinking what if I had stuck it out? And there were a few things that happened that kind of precipitated selling the business. I think the universe was actually saying it was the right decision for me at the time. But yeah, I think from now on, I'll just smile and nod my head and do whatever I want anyway.
We're going to have the last question so that we can move on.
Okay, since you said you sing,
Yeah.
and you're a singer, could you please sing us a song?
Yeah. Does anybody have any requests?
I'd like Madonna, but I don't know that's kosher.
I did it my way. I don't know if I know those lyrics. I'm trying to think. Jeez. I know, what's like an entrepreneur like? Make me that much stronger, make me just a little bit thicker, make me that much wiser, thanks for making me a fighter. That sounded okay, actually. That sounded all right. Thank you, ladies, so much, and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you, Freya. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Will you be around in morning tea at all?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so Liz will be around in morning tea, so please.